What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Foreign Exchange Podcast. I'm back with Aaron. I'm back with Tamiem. And today we have Greg Lemiska joining us from Method360. Greg's the capability lead over at Method360. And I'm assuming a good kind of first question for you, Greg, is going to be, what does that mean?
What does that mean? Yeah. So at Method360, like our focus is creating value out of uncertainty and helping businesses through technical projects in times of change. And that always means the intersection of people, technology, and business. And so we kind of look at it from those three lenses. And so while I'm the capability lead for the people side of things, all of us really kind of have that range to cover all three. And we focus on that intersection because we can talk about this all day. But you can't do any one of those things effectively without the other two.
Got it. And can you tell us about Method360 real quickly as well?
Yeah, so Method360 is a consulting company that's been around for over 20 years. They originally started with a heavy focus on data and analytics. So they did a lot of work in medical space, things like that. Some pretty big clients. They did a lot of like data migration. But one of the things they found is as they tried to help people with their data and get value out of it, they would run into, oh, well, you guys wanted to do this data thing, but you didn't think about this business problem, or like it doesn't have a business tie into ROI. Or, hey, we had a really good ROI on this data thing we wanted to do, but we didn't think about the people, and now the people aren't using it, and so it's not getting the value. And so this idea that, hey, you got to cover all these angles, they really kind of evolved over the years. And so now Method360 is really about that intersection. And then where are high stakes moments where that intersection is super important. So for example, in M&A business, like post-close, so you bought a company and now you're trying to integrate it, or you sold the company and it needs to stand up on its own. In those moments, you've got to get those three things right really fast. There's a lot of money on the line. There's a lot of emotions. Like people are acting not normal because left and right, people are getting fired or paid out and like crazy stuff's going on. So you got to help people through those moments. You got to understand the tech. You got to understand the people. You got to understand the business in order to guide people through that successfully. So that's Method360 as a whole. There's a really data and analytical background evolved into this sort of three-headed monster so that we can help businesses through these moments.
Yeah, and I mean, we are in the Method360 office, so we've been leveraging this badass studio that they have, a huge office. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of different rooms, but you've only been with them, Greg, for like about 4 years. Is that right?
Three. About 3 years. So I was actually a client first.
Okay.
So I hired my Method360 to help me with a data problem at a medical device company. So it was a medical device company that's at this point been around for like 80 years.
Wow.
And so when I was there, they had a bunch of legacy systems, a legacy data that was limiting us from doing certain business things. I was in charge of selling services, essentially. And the data we had wasn't letting me do the type of contracts that I wanted to do. And so we needed to try to fix the underlying data structure, which was super complicated because if you guys know SAP and data tables and all this stuff, we couldn't, it was a huge effort to get past that. So we called in Method360 to help us look at how would we do that and understand like the data side of doing that. Ultimately, I decided not to do it, like because they helped me understand what it was going to take and all the ins and outs, and we said I can't make a compelling business case to do this right now. Interesting. If you came to me with that same problem today, I would probably say I can probably use AI to do this in a much quicker, faster way, and it would be worth it. Which gets into like later conversations about AI and what it's bringing to business. But so I had a good experience with that, and then what happened was. At that former company, my CIO, the global CIO left, and a new one came in. And at that point, I was directing global projects, and this new person, she and I did not get along at all. She wanted to change everything that we were doing, and I had the unfortunate personality trait of not just saying yes. And so I fought her in meetings, and she did not like that. And it got bad. And I was like, you know what? Time for me to move on, do something else.
So that's okay. There's a lesson here to unpack. So leadership change happens in the organization that you work for. You're strong-willed, opinionated, and are just bumping heads with the new leader, right?
Yeah.
And so then instinctually what happens next? Are you approached by the Method team because of the experience you had almost potentially bringing them on? Or do you reach out to them and you're like, hey, I enjoyed our conversations. Is there anything there for me? Like, how did you kind of navigate that?
So there's like complicated layers on my exit, which actually was really, I ended up working for like 3 months and stuff. And the new CIO ended up getting fired. Like the day after I actually formally resigned, they actually let her go. But the politics, I didn't know what was going on and all this. So it was very, very much validation, but I do have to thank her because she did push me to go and do a new thing. And I had always said, I spent a lot of time at that company. I spent, I think it was 18 years across 12 different roles.
Wow.
And I'd always stayed there, so it was very comfortable for me. And I always said, I need to get out and see the world and see more companies to get more experience. And so she finally pushed me to do that. So to that end, I have to thank her. She showed me an opportunity. But really the way that worked is I called one of the founders here at Method360, his name's Jim Hank. And I said, hey, I need a job. And he's like, can you start on Monday? I'm like, what would I be doing? He's like, I don't care. just come join. And so I actually ended up in a leadership role at the project. It was a project for Dell Computer, and a company had bought a division of Dell. And so I actually helped exit a whole division out of Dell and stand it up into 5 independent companies. That was like my first consulting project.
So you were in industry for a medical device sales company for almost 20 years, then transitioned into consulting, and it was your first experience in consulting.
Yes, but I will say, like at the end of my career in medical device, I was essentially an internal consultant. I was in charge of the portfolio of IT projects and how we would do them and which vendors we were using and which technologies we were using. I was in the mix and having these conversations with executives and helping them make the best decisions they could. And that's really what consulting is how do you help leaders make the best decisions possible and then execute on those. So, yeah.
Did your time that you spent at that company give you the confidence to speak up to the leadership, or was it just part of your personality where it's like, hey, it wouldn't matter if it was 6 months into the company or 13 years, I would have still acted the same way, said the same things in the meeting?
I've definitely gotten spicier, more confident as I've gotten older. Like I just give less fucks, I guess, if it's okay to swear occasionally.
Yeah, you can
like when I was younger, I was much more of I think this is wrong, but I'm just going to keep my mouth shut and do the thing. And then as I've gotten older and farther in my career, and there's probably comfortable, like I have money, like if I get fired tomorrow, I'm not going to be on the street. Like there's a lot of that I think younger professionals don't have. And so it's a lot riskier to speak up when you think something's wrong. And so later in my career, I have the privilege to be able to do that. And I've learned from experience that generally that uncomfortable part of that conversation, it pays off. Because if like months later, you're going, ooh, I saw that and I was right about that, but you didn't say anything to anybody, you got nothing. Like it's bad, like it's more uncomfortable.
That's bars right there for sure. So hindsight then, if you were able to go backwards in time, would you have that confidence, or do you feel like it has to come with age and experience?
It's hard. I wouldn't say people can like flip a switch and have that confidence.
Yeah.
For me, a big part of it was having the right mentors. Like I could say there's moments when I had certain bosses that really helped accelerate that journey to having that confidence and having those conversations. And generally those bosses were the people that had the most confidence. They were the people that were willing to entertain a conversation that was a little more confrontational because they didn't feel threatened. They're just like, tell me what you're thinking and why. Let's talk this through. And if I can't defend myself, then maybe you've got a point. Or maybe I haven't thought about something. But a boss, I had many, many terrible bosses. That's a whole set of stories. But generally the ones that were insecure or like were not confident in their roles were the ones that are threatened by that conversation. And then that, I think, slows people's journey down. That development journey can be stifled by an insecure boss or someone who's not willing to have those conversations.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really powerful message. I think there's a common thread that we have when we have guests on and speak to different professionals in different spaces about what you just brought up, mentorship. Can you enlighten us on what mentorship meant to you and what it means to you today and how important that is for working professionals and just people in general?
I mean, it's hard to understate the value of a good mentor and a good supporter. On one hand, like you don't want a mentor who's just a cheerleader and tells you can do no wrong. someone who's going to hold you accountable to your thought process, but engage in true intellectual conversation. I mean, it's so important. Now, one of the problems that I've seen in my journey is a lot of people want to become managers because they want the money and the power, right? Like I want to become a manager because it's a bigger paycheck, and then I, in theory, have to do less work because I'm the boss now and I can just tell people what to do. And that's the entirely wrong motivation. The right motivation is a leader who gets satisfaction out of making other people successful. Like the leader who like doesn't care about themselves necessarily and what they're doing or how they're being seen or what they're doing or if they're getting recognition, as long as their people are getting recognition and an organization that supports that type of mentality, that is crazy important, right? Because let's say you guys work for me. My motivation is to be like, I want you guys to all be fucking rock stars and like be killing it. And then when someone looks at me, they go, well, Greg's, I'm not sure what Greg's doing, but his team is killing it. Like that's good leadership. Like me taking credit for your work and going like, look at this stuff that I did. Ignore those 3 guys in the background. That's problematic. But I've seen organizations that reward that sort of self-promotion. And there is a balance, right? If you're not good at self-promotion, you're not necessarily going to get the leadership roles, which goes into a whole psychology thing about we as humans and who we pick as leaders, right? There's a study somewhere that if you have a group of people, you're dropped in the woods, there's no way anybody knows how to get out of these woods. Like you were all blindfolded, you're all the same, no one's from there. You have 2 guys trying to be leaders or girls. One of them says, I know the way out, which is utter bullshit. And everybody knows this because there's no way that they know. And then you have the other person say, I'm not sure how to get out of here, but I think we can band together and figure it out. People in that crowd are more likely to pick the first person, even though they know it's bullshit, because it's just hardwired in our psychology to prefer confidence and avoid risk. Wow. Even though intellectually we would know the second person's probably the better leader, in that moment, if we're not thinking intellectually and we're thinking emotionally, because this is a high stakes situation, we're more likely to gravitate towards that leader who's talking out of their ass.
They're thinking, hey, option A is easier. Option B might be a little bit more work, so let's go with option A, even though we know he might be full of it.
Well, I might be the first guy. I don't know. I think I'm the first guy. Sujan, you might be the second guy.
I don't know.
Sujan's definitely option B for sure, which is a good thing.
And I'm option A, which is a great thing.
That's a funny point. But it is true. I think us as humans were somehow wired to believe that somebody, who speaks up just exudes confidence. Maybe, even if it's wrong, we don't have, like, psychologically, the thought doesn't come up to challenge somebody who's just loud, right?
It's that. It's also that first person may not be realizing it, but they're actually taking some of my personal risk and putting it on themselves. Meaning, okay, this person's got it. I, in this stressful situation, can relax slightly, and I have to take less accountability and less risk on myself because this person's taking it. Now, the problem with that is that person, when they're saying that, they're not actually acknowledging the real risks, and so they've somewhat diluted themselves into what they're doing. Yeah. But again, that's the thing we prefer, because now I've got less responsibility because someone else has it. And so it's actually just go boil it all the way back down to like calories. I now have to spend less of my personal calories figuring this out. For sure. Because Aaron's going to do it. Yeah. And so there's some of that. And it's just really interesting when we really get into the psychology and how this all works.
So since you since a majority of your role, or I know you mentioned you handle kind of you're jack of all trades, right? Yep. But since you're people centric, do you find yourself kind of using all these things you've learned to, kind of weed out the bullshit? When somebody's talking to you, it's like, man, this person's full of bullshit. Or, if you're interviewing somebody, right?
Yeah. There's, I've come to learn more skills on how to do that. That was not something that I learned how to do naturally, like working with people. I was, early in my career, I got called into HR on more than one occasion for just like losing my shit on people because they weren't doing something right or doing something the way I wanted them to.
Rage baited by employees.
That's that. Exactly. That's that Eastern European in you, though. That's just that, like.
Probably something.
He's like, these fucking idiots.
No patience.
There's one response thing that comes to mind is there's a technical person on my team, and they really wanted to build this like data cube. and they were just insistent that this was the right thing to do. And while technically they were totally right, like I was saying, like, we should not do that because there is no business case for this. There's no ROI of doing this. So the conversation is moot. Like we don't need to have this conversation because there's no reason to do this. Whether we're doing it right, wrong, whatever, it doesn't matter. and this person just kept insisting that they needed to do it this technical way, and this technical way was right, and they weren't listening. And I just was like, you know, like in the middle of a crowded office. It was not great, and I received some coaching. And at some point there was like
working here.
He went Hulk smash on the.
But at some point
And you're a big guy too, so you know.
Sujan's a little scared right now to say the wrong thing.
It's like you know, you said technical, so I'm assuming was the other person brown?
This person was Latino.
Brown, okay.
Different kind of brown. Yeah.
Imagine, you know, just like a
Imagine
brown
6'4", 260. Says, hey, none of it.
He was as big as I was.
Oh,
He
okay.
wasn't a little guy. He's a good person. We worked together for a long time. It's fine. But I do have a bottle. Yes, I do tend to bottle things up and occasionally release a little pressure, too much pressure at once. But the lesson from that on self-reflection on how I could do better was that I need to figure out how to be better with people. Like, how do I use words and influence people in other ways to get what I want without just beating my head against the wall? Like, that is not the most efficient way to get people to do what you want them to do. You need to understand, if you can understand their motivations and have other techniques, life just gets easier. And so instead of sitting there going God, I hate working with people, everybody's dumb. Okay, how can I be most effective in my environment by working with people and figuring out these tools to get them to do the right thing that recognizes their motivations and all this kind of stuff. If I had said to that person, hey, this technical idea is amazing, I would love to do this. How can we do this in a way that generates ROI? And then put that problem in their court, because now I've recognized them as the expert and said, hey, this problem that I'm struggling with, now it's your problem.
Yeah.
Help me solve this. There's a lot of ways I could have pivoted that conversation for it to go way better. But because at that time I had not spent a lot of time thinking about psychology and all these people issues, I didn't have that skill set. Yeah, I mean, it's super important to learn that side of things.
Going back to the start of your career at Method360, I'm curious whether you've thought about it or your reflection on a lot of people apply to jobs and they have to apply to a specific job, but in your specific situation, they're like, hey, we don't know what the job is, but we want you on the team. Can you speak on, because I think it's a little stressful right now where people are having to apply to a specific job, not knowing if they're the best fit or not, but really instead of having somebody to trust them, be like, hey, we like your capabilities, we like what you could bring to the table, we'll figure out where you fit into this. Can you speak on that a little bit?
I mean, that's a really good problem. I mean, even I think about that one. As a sort of generalist, if I go look at jobs and see what's out there, it's always well, I could do a lot of these different things. How do I know if I'm the right fit for that, or even if that's the best job at that company, is that the best way that I could help them?
Exactly.
It's a tough one. I would say the only thing to do there is to try, go learn, go do interviews. My sister and I talk all the time, and she's always encouraging me, and I'm doing the same to her. Hey, just interview, just see what's out there, talk to people. You never know. And unless you check things out, the opportunities will never really come. So I don't have a great solution to that problem. I mean, maybe someday AI will be able to sort us Harry Potter hat and tell you this is the best spot for you. Or that book, there's the old book, The Giver. When everybody turns 13 or something, they there's a ceremony and they'll get given the job, and it's all tailored for them to be perfect at this job, and they've got that all figured out. Yeah. I don't know. Those
I think
are all sort of dystopian.
Korean babies, when they turn 1 year old in the Korean culture, and I might butcher this completely, but they put like a stethoscope, and they put all these different things down on the floor, and the baby will like crawl to the one, that it's eventually going to be their job. There's a version of that we need to figure out, but
it's all stethoscopes.
mine's is just all like piles of cash everywhere. Yeah. But Sujan, I'm curious to hear from you, because obviously our fan base here, they think that, this is our only job and we need to get a real job. Yeah. But hearing that from Greg, who's, 20 plus years in his, professional career and his journey in terms of leadership, I know you, on the other hand, who have found success early and are in a leadership and management position. What's your experience been like in regards to this topic? Like, I want to kind of hear you, break that down a little bit.
I think two things I want to say. One is, to your point about like developing yourself and kind of learning how to deal with people. One of the things that's really helped me, and I think this is really like what I would consider to be like my superpower, is the ability to talk to people in their language, right? Everybody understands information differently. And I often find myself kind of playing that like mediator role, right? Between different departments, different groups of people, where, they're all communicating and they're all correct, but it's just not, it's not connecting, right? So the person, and it could be, a financial topic, it could be an operational topic. I think that's one area that I've found really great managers stand out, and really that's at my company at least.
And for more color and context for Greg as well, like when you started not too long ago with them, you were managing like 3-4 people, right? And it's graduated to what exactly today?
Yeah, so I work for the company I work for. We're a healthcare staffing company. I started in 2020 in June. But I've been in this field for now a little over a decade now, and I kind of started just randomly, because I was bored, kind of just going to college, and I wanted to make money. But this particular company, when I started, it was very small. We were 7 employees, and as of I think last week, I got a list of all the people that we have, and I think we crossed 300 employees. So it's a big group of people. And yeah, it started with, like I said, 7 people, but I think one of the things that really helped me is everybody at the company was like twice my age. They're way farther along in their careers, and I think my CEO took kind of this leap of faith just on me as well. Kind of hiring a young guy to go and kind of run his company, but I'm glad that he did, and I was able to kind of talk to everybody, get them to come together, and I think COVID also helped, the timing, and there's always like a luck component to everybody's success, I think. So I think all that worked out, and today, my specific team, I think we're 297 people is who I'm directly and indirectly responsible for, but to your point, the great managers that I see are the ones who can go and they don't put themselves at the forefront of the success of the team. They really spend the time to go highlight, hey, this person from my team's like doing a great job. And that to me is a sign of a great manager, right? Like I think I have, in terms of managers, there's about 8 who, it kind of flows down. And that's one of the things I look at is like, how often are they promoting their team? And what I try to do from my side is to give them that confidence to say, you don't need to always tell me that you're doing a good job. Or like, I know you're doing a good job if your team is doing a good job. So you go focus on them. And I think when you build a culture that way from top down, it accomplishes kind of all of the things you're talking about. But I think all of these things I've had to learn really quickly. And I've had, like I said, great mentors, that have kind of helped me. And a lot of it is a trial by fire as well. I've had to figure out things and figure it out quickly. And to the last thing you mentioned earlier, where it's there are 2 types of people, right? One who just speak loud, and one who just kind of has to figure it out. I definitely am the second person, but I think there's a part of my thinking where it's like, well, I'm young, so I also don't want to come off as like unconfident and like incapable, right? So I often find myself balancing both of those personalities, where it's sometimes like, hey man, I know this. And in my head, it's like, I don't know this, but I'll figure it out. I believe in my ability to figure it out. So oftentimes I'm kind of balancing those 2 personalities.
It's interesting. It's the ability to kind of straddle both, and one to acknowledge the challenge, but still inspire confidence. Like when you think of like the great movie speeches where like there's someone like, we're gonna win
like
this
Sparta,
battle,
right?
It's
Yeah.
like we're outnumbered by blah blah blah, and but we're gonna win anyways. Like that. Like there's something to do with like that sort of balance. Like we recognize the challenge, we recognize it's gonna be hard, but we're confident anyways because of this. If you can strike that correctly, then you don't come off as overconfident because you're not recognizing the challenges. But you also don't come off as not confident because you're just raising all the issues. It's like striking that balance, and that's hard. That takes practice. It comes down to something you mentioned, like speaking the language. So probably around the time of that big blow up that I had with that guy, and I was doing this self-reflection of how do I get better at this, I came across a book on rhetoric, which is really interesting. So the Greeks actually taught rhetoric as a skill. Like if you went to like college in those days, they would actually teach you rhetoric in a way and teach you how to speak to groups in a way that you will be heard and you could convince them. We don't do that anymore. In fact, I mean, rhetoric actually has a very negative connotation. We usually associate it with politicians trying to, bullshit you. But it's a really important skill.
Maybe that's how some of my team members think about me. I don't know.
What's the name of the
Is
book? if you
Trump the
recommend
goat
it?
of rhetoric?
The book I'm thinking of, it's called Thank You for Arguing. I think the guy is Jay Heinrichs.
Okay.
And then he has a follow-up, which is pretty funny. It's like a shorter version. It's How to Win an Argument with a Cat.
Okay.
Which
You recommend both of them?
I highly recommend both of them. They're very entertaining, and they've got a lot of really salient practical points. Like how do you get a 4-year-old to brush their teeth?
Got it.
This is not a rational thing, and whatever words you choose are not really going to matter. And so you got to speak to their emotions and try to like reframe things. It's the same thing. The cat example is great. So it goes to the extreme of, unless you understand the cat's motivations and you start to work with those, you're never going to get them to do anything.
That's awesome.
And so the book is great. It talks through, there's examples, it uses a lot of pop culture references, and it talks about like presidents as examples, and how like George W. Bush, he spoke like his voters. And whether that was like an intentional calculation or just a natural thing he had, like that he learned through how he was able to convince people, like it's, when you think about it and you think about his base and the words he uses, and a lot of like the intellectuals, we would make fun of him for, the way he spoke and the words he used, but it's effective, right? And you got to get, it's rhetoric. It's this idea that people are more likely to listen to someone who uses the words they use, or it even gets down to dresses the way they dress and like behaves the way it's, if you are one of us, we are more likely to listen to you. And so there's and again, it comes back to psychology again. And there's a whole thing around confidence and how do you earn the trust of people, because that's almost required to get them to do something that you want them to do. I mean, if someone doesn't trust you, you could be telling them something that is blatantly true and obvious, and they will not do it because they don't trust you. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, like we could be, if you didn't trust me, and we're looking at a stoplight, and I'm telling you it's green, and you can see that it's green, but you don't trust me. Just the fact that I'm saying it, you're gonna go, wow, there's something going on here.
So this is fascinating. I mean, what do you feel like, because you just mentioned, right, part of it is like you want to resonate and connect with the audience that you're speaking to. So somebody like Trump, who is, you can argue, I mean, one of the most persuasive people in the world right now, like how he's Mr. Gold, Mr. Billionaire, everything before, running for president, and most of his supporting base isn't all of that. They don't have any of that, but he still can persuade them to, trust him. So what's your perspective on that?
He's probably the prototypical example of that first persona.
Of course.
Projecting confidence, right? He's also...
I know everything. I don't know everything.
We have all the best people. Everything's the best. Yeah. He's that classic archetype number one. It's a dangerous territory you brought me into, like the Star Wars. It's a trap. Like,
no, we don't.
We can keep talking about that, but you have to admit that Trump is, at a minimum, a great marketer.
Well, yeah, this is
as far as a branding person, guys.
Well, this is the kind of angle that I want to focus on, not necessarily his politics and decision making, things like that, whatever. The marketing side, the rhetoric side, the persuasiveness part of him amongst people on Earth today and right now. He's at the very top, right?
Yeah, I mean, all the businesses he's been able to start, like all the money he's been able to get from people to start those businesses and convincing people to do the thing, like, yeah, it's impressive. Now, it starts to crumble when you start looking at execution and follow through, and like how does the number of businesses that haven't worked out and that kind of stuff. Like that speaks to the heart of that. Leaders project confidence, whether or not they know how to do the thing, and that will make people gravitate toward them. But where that starts to fall apart is the person that's overconfident to the degree that it's going to affect the execution and create failure on the back end. That's the problem, right? And so that's where, and because we as humans, again, tend to gravitate towards that first thing, this starts to get into a lot of Machiavellian stuff. If you've read his things, and he goes into like how leaders essentially delude themselves into thinking they know everything because they've surrounded themselves with people that are attracted to the power. And if you're a person that is like, you're doing that, I know the right answer, I'm the confident, I know what's right, you're going to surround yourself with people that reinforce that message. Because
yes,
it makes
man.
that, and, well, not just because they're yes men, because it makes your message that more powerful. Because if you say, I know the right answer, and then you've got a bunch of people around you going, he knows the right answer, you've got a megaphone of, I've got the right answer.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, if you don't actually have the right answer, and you've got to figure it out, but you're so blinded by the idea that just telling people I have the right answer is enough, and if there's ever a crack in my armor, things are going to fall apart, you're disincentivized from really looking into gaining the knowledge or the capability to do the thing that you need to do. And so so again, this is not new stuff. So like was studied back when you were looking at like kings and princes back in the old days, and these types of psychological mechanisms have existed throughout human history, essentially.
Yeah, well, I mean, all of this is just great. I mean, it is fascinating. Like you said, none of this is necessarily new, but kind of comes in patterns. But what is new is the introduction of AI and Gen AI and what part that plays in all of this, right?
That was a great pivot there.
And the connection, right? So I want to hear from you in the space that you're in, kind of the introduction of AI, your relationship with it, how you leverage it, and kind of open the door to that part of the conversation.
You know, one way to tie those things together is that AI makes this conversation or education on these topics that much more accessible, because you can ask an AI about Machiavelli and the Prince and like all that stuff and have it comment on any topic that you give it. And it's like having access to a college professor office hours one-on-one where you can just ask it about any topic and you have this time and you'll learn so much. Now, one of the problems I see with AI is people tend to just ask it a question and take the answer, and then they're like, the AI told me to do this. That's not, in my opinion, the value of AI. The value of AI, especially the chatbots, is having an in-depth conversation and doing the back and forth and getting it to give you perspectives and drilling deeper and having it respond and go different angles. It's like having that professor that's just willing to talk through all this stuff. It's like the analogy I would use with AI. It's like a librarian, like that never leaves the library and just knows all the books. It doesn't have like a real good understanding of the outside world unless you tell it, but it knows where all the information is and it has this broad understanding. It can go any different direction with you, but you need to direct it down a path of something that is valuable to your situation.
The goal should be to for you to get the knowledge out of it, right? Not just for it to tell you to take an action and you just follow that action blindly.
Correct. You shouldn't be seeking an answer. You should be seeking
a partner,
a way of thinking, or some knowledge.
It should question
or some
your
wisdom.
thinking, challenge your thinking.
Correct.
Or help you think in any way.
How are you leveraging it right now? Just out of us three, I would be curious to know.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of different ways. I definitely use it in like problem solving. You know, it's kind of talking through it in terms of how I think a good way to solve a problem would be, and for it to find like flaws, right? Whether that's related to finances or operationally, even in terms of like operational efficiency. I know that's such like a corporate word, but just telling it, hey, this is how we solve these problems today, right? And I see that there's gaps here because these particular things are not getting solved, right? Like, how would you go about doing this? And whatever kind of its idea is, challenging that, right? Like, have you thought about this case or this use case, right? And kind of making sure that like you said, I'm treating it as like an expert that's there consulting me and almost helping me make decisions. But at the same time, it's not AI's decision. It's helping me make decisions by educating me on all the things that I didn't think about, right? Now there's like a lot simpler things, like just in terms of, improving even something as simple as improving the way we onboard our field employees, right? Like, that's an experience that you got to have. Maybe a similar way would be like, how do you handle the M&A piece, right? How are you coordinating all these different components? Is there an easier way or a more efficient way, because everybody's very emotional, right? In my field, it's, we're dealing with humans, so there's constant changes, constant kind of emotions that get involved. So making sure that everybody's alert and everybody knows what their roles and responsibilities are, and just filling in those gaps, right? That's where AI has been like really helpful for me.
It's one way I like to think about it, in which also highlights its limitations, is it embodies the entire corpus of written human knowledge. Now, one of the things is we don't write about everything. Some things we just take for granted. Like we can get into computer vision as one of the challenges I think behind computer vision, despite the advances in AI, is that we don't talk about how we see and interact with the world, because we learn that before we learn how to speak. So when you see a 1 or 2 year old, playing with blocks and understanding like, this is my face, and when I do this, I'm hitting myself in the face, or this thing's there, and like just understanding the physical world, that's all. None of that is in language. You have no language to really explain any of that, because you learned it before you had language. And so then none of that exists in our corpus of knowledge that an AI or anything can read. And so we're trying to teach AI to do these very fundamental things that we don't have words for. And so
I saw a video. This guy was having a fight with his girlfriend, and he's using ChatGPT. How do I make sure she's not mad at me? She's not upset at me.
Well, Tommy, I want to know how are you using it? I want to know how you use it.
Is this connected to this relationship piece?
I'm pretty sure whatever you saw.
That guy was Tommy.
that guy that you read was Tommy for sure.
No, but how do you use it? How do your parents use it? Maybe like, do you what do you find interesting about just?
To not be like super joking, about this, exactly what Sujan says is something that I would use it for sure. I'll use it for everything. I mean, I don't use Google anymore. I don't use basically all the other sort of tools that I would have. I don't use. I only use AI. AI is my search engine. AI is if I'm feeling like I just want to talk through things with somebody, I'll use not even the chatbot, I'll use like the voice. Yeah. And the voice is getting crazy realistic. Like I have it to like this like hot girl voice. And like, I mean, she's talking to me and I'm like, damn, me and her are like best friends now.
That's funny.
Bro, you're drooling.
And what's so cool about the voice part too is that they'll stop, they'll make breaks, they'll like act like they'll stutter.
They'll listen to you.
They'll listen to me. But they'll.
I'm not used to this.
No, but the voice is not even like perfect robotic. Like sometimes they'll take pauses. It'll stutter. It'll do these things where it's like it even blows me away. Where it's like, whoa, like this sounds real. But to answer your question, I'll use it for everything.
Well, what do you use exactly? Like which one?
I use ChatGPT voice.
So I started.
I heard Tamiem have like full on conversations in the car, like, hey man, I'm thinking about this, and then he just like completely switches to a separate topic.
My dad will get mad at me because he's like, you're ordering a pizza, you don't have to like use ChatGPT and I'm like, no, I got to I have to ask it about everything. Like,
is pineapple on pizza good?
Yeah. The Grok 4 came out last week, and they had a whole like live stream event, and one of the things that they rolled out was the ability for the voice mode to like whisper or to like change cadence or like to sing opera. It just has like a little bit more kind of layers to it, and I was messing with it in bed while I was in Colorado on vacation. I was like just like messing with it.
You were in bed with Grok?
I was in bed with Grok. My girlfriend was getting ready for bed.
Level.
She was.
Did your girlfriend know you were in bed with Grok?
My girlfriend listened. So my girlfriend was in getting ready. She's taking a shower, getting ready for bed. I already was like in a full blown kind of conversation, just messing with it because it just released, and I was having so much fun. And she like got into bed, put her like night mask on, was getting ready to go to sleep, and I had it like I was waiting for her to get ready to go to bed because I had like the last prompt ready to go, and I told it to whisper to me, "You're the goat. Get good sleep." And so she laid down, and all of a sudden Grok goes, "You're the goat. Good night. Get some good sleep." And she like looked over at me, and she's like, "You're so full of yourself." And I was like, "Oh, it feels so good to have someone to just make you feel good about yourself." But
That's awesome.
You know what that I've been thinking about lately is if you go through the history of at least ChatGPT, it's like very personal information. Like it can get like if somebody goes through it, like my brother like has access to my ChatGPT, like I might even, he's my brother, but if he goes through it, I might be like, yo, you're getting into like deep territory about like stuff that I'm asking you.
Dude,
know?
I
So
share all my logins. I'm not sharing my ChatGPT login for that reason.
So it's funny you guys bring that up because I was on LinkedIn and some leader was asking like, hey, I forget what it was. They did a poll of do you journal?
Yeah.
And my immediate thought was, well, does my ChatGPT conversations, does that count? Because it's
For
kind of
sure.
like journaling.
That's
For
exactly
sure.
right.
Because unlike you guys, I use it for everything. It could
Yeah.
be like, this is funny, at my apartment, someone parked in my parking spot.
yeah.
So I came home on a Friday after like it was late, and I'm like, and someone's in my spot. I'm like, this is whatever. So I left them a note like, hey, I pay for this
old
spot.
right there.
Anger came out.
And then I go home and I look at my email. There's an email from my apartment saying, hey, you're parked illegally in a spot. And I'm like, wait a minute. This spot's on my lease. Like, what, you're threatening to tow my vehicle? So I'm like, ChatGPT, like, tell me about like, one, am I too pissed off about this? Like, give me some emotional coaching. And then number two, like, tell me my legal standing. Like, what do I, when I go to the office tomorrow, like, what can I like, give me some like lawyerly advice on how to deal with this.
Yeah.
And so there's that. But then, an hour before that, I was using it to vibe code, like when I was cranking out, basically a communication protocol for like a front end that was on top of an agentic AI. Like, so I was doing that. It's amazing the range of capabilities.
The level of complexity, right? From something simple to something super complex, and how good it's getting at doing more complex things, and how good it's getting at the more simple things too at the same time. Do you have, I know we talked about this before we started recording, but between the different, offerings from the different companies, like, do you have any opinions or perspective on like if one's better than the other, or if they're all the same, or, they keep kind of pushing the benchmark forward in terms of which one's better than the next? Is there any kind of perspective there?
It's a good question, and it constantly comes up, and it harkens back to what I was talking about before, where a lot of the value you get out of AI is going to be depending on what you put into it, right? And so model to model, they're pretty similar, and the capabilities change week to week. So if I told you ChatGPT 4.0 is the best, then next week Grok's going to be the best, and then Cloud's going to be the best, and it just changes so often that I debate this, right? Is it ever worth switching? Because it feels to me that the more context I give to ChatGPT 4.0, especially now that it has memory and it can look at all the different conversations, like the better it gets. And I was messing around with Grok, and like it obviously doesn't have any of that context, and I was not particularly happy with what it was telling me. And so I think to some degree, it's not really which model you choose. It's how much effort do you put into using it and learning it and giving it context and figuring out where to apply it. And it's really interesting, the conversation you guys are having about how you talk to it. I never talk to it. I always type, which is probably bad. Like I probably need to get into the mode of speaking to it, because then I'll use it more and in more situations.
You get more. So I was driving the other day, and my whole drive was just a conversation with Grok. Like the whole time I was driving, and it was obviously when you're driving, it's a lot easier to speak to it than to write into it. But so your kind of advice almost is kind of stick to one, right? Because you'll get more out of it if you're sticking to one versus, because people don't know. People are like, should I try this one? Should I do this one? Oh, it's a new one coming out. It's a new one. Like people don't, like the everyday person doesn't understand what the best way is to leverage.
I would say if flipping between the different models means you never spend enough time with one to give it a lot of context, that's bad. If you're switching and you're giving it like the amount of due effort that it needs to become good, then yeah. And if you're doing a specific task and you're like, hey, I just want to know which one is the best at coding Python right now, and I haven't done a ton of that with the one then yeah, go figure out the best one. But I think it's really more about how much effort are you putting into working with the tool than which tool happens to be the best this week.
Cool. So in terms of, the way you're positioned, right, Greg, where you're working for a consulting firm that's, was heavy in data, has taken on M&A and other traditional consulting type of responsibilities as in terms of an organization. How is AI impacting your firm specifically, and even broader? How is it, from your point of view, impacting the kind of market in different organizations altogether?
It's a big question. Some of the immediate stuff like that, it impacts the economy and jobs and things, is individual people can do way more. If they're using AI and they're savvy with using AI, they can be far more productive than they used to be, which means the teams get smaller and the teams go faster. And if you're doing solving the same problem with a smaller team and faster, you're generating less revenue as a consulting company. So that is an issue that consulting companies need to figure out. The flip side, the counteracting force to that, is I can deliver more value. Right? If I can do smaller teams, I can do things faster, and then I can ultimately provide more value, and so I should be able to do more projects, right, and then equal out the revenue conversation. I think the struggle is companies like our clients are still trying to figure out AI and how do they do that, and governance and risks and all the different things, because it is not an easy button by any means. Like, sometimes I think AI gets characterized as it's just the easy button. You press the button and then suddenly nobody has jobs and AI is doing everything. And that's really not reality. Any AI application still has all the trimmings of traditional software development. You need to set up APIs, set up databases. You have to build front ends. You have to do all these different things and run a project, all under the assumption that you're trying to solve the right problem from the get-go. Like, I can't tell you the number of projects or things that I've seen or heard about where someone said, hey, we need to do some of this AI stuff, go do something. People go running down a path and it's not valuable. And then they suddenly go, we were 3 months into this thing and we probably need to reframe it and rescope it and redefine what we're trying to do because we didn't pick the right problem. So all those things exist. And I think everybody's grappling with, what can AI do? Where can it provide value? How do I queue these things up in order to extract that value? So there's a gap between, hey, suddenly everybody's more efficient because it can make me as a person more efficient. But we haven't organizationally figured out where are all the best places we can apply it and stacking up these projects so that we can do, the organizations are slower to adjust than the individuals. And so there's this lag that I think you're going to see for a while, where the number of consulting jobs and things or any jobs are going to somewhat get reduced because individuals are more productive, but then organizations haven't realized this new pace that they can do to make up that gap.
Do you think people should protect themselves or better qualify themselves for positions by getting good at every single AI tool, or just getting good at one? Like, should somebody focus on ChatGPT, or should they get good at all of them? And that's what question one. Question two is, like, do you see companies, sort of being like, hey, we're only going to be using ChatGPT, or like, get good at Excel, don't get good at numbers, in terms of stuff like that?
I would say for the individual person, get good at one. Like, the same thing we were talking about before is, like, using one and getting good at it and using it to its full capability is more important than being okay at a bunch of them. Mm-hmm. Because they are kind of the same. Like, if you look at Grok's interface, you look at ChatGPT's, they're exactly the same. It's oddly similar. I'm like, come on, guys, can somebody do something a little different? Like, as a person who has designed UIs before and is literally building different types of UIs to go on those things to make them more capable, I'm kind of like, there's a lack of imagination in these UIs, and it can't do things I wish it could do. And I'm having to build those myself. So that aside, to answer your question, I would say you don't need to know all of them. There's no way to know all of them. There's so many. So pick ones that you like, be aware of them, but get good at one. Be aware of what's going on, and be aware of, if for some reason the one you're working with is not getting the investment or not as advancing and you need to switch, you should be aware of that landscape, but get good at one. And then the big thing is, we all know this, is if you're not using AI consistently in your job, that is a problem. Mm-hmm. Because those of us that are, we're just that much more efficient. We are just that much better at our jobs. Like I can knock out stuff in an afternoon that used to take me days. And so when it comes to like my annual performance plan, like I can get way more of that stuff done in way less time and just be a better employee and a better leader. Like, so that's the one constant is if you're not investing the time to figure these things out and use them as much as you can, that's a problem for you.
What do you think about like within AI? So I think historically, you know, we always go through these times where like, you know, different groups of people become superstars, right? Like, you know, we went through like right now, professional athletes, they get paid like this insane amount of money, right? Mm-hmm. Like some of the highest paid people in the world. There's a new group of people emerging, you know, in streamers that we're going to talk to in a little bit, like maybe that'll be a separate conversation. But now I think that's happening with like these engineers, right? Like, you know, the biggest news is Meta and Mark Zuckerberg is offering these insane. I think the latest one I saw was Apple's chief engineer received a $300 million package to shift over to Meta.
Yeah, and I think
is this like the new wave of superstars that we're seeing?
I think to add to that, I think before Sam Altman was saying that Zuckerberg was trying to poach his talent and offering these like $100 million signing bonuses and things like that, which is unreal, the numbers. So,
I mean, there's huge money at play for the companies that figure these things out. Like you can look at like Palantir, for example, and their valuations, stock prices, and what they've been doing. And they've been at it for a long time. The underlying math and statistics and things that go into making these LLMs do what they do is very, very complicated. And even me who's in it, like once I start peeling back the layers of the onion and of how the whole thing works, at some point you're like, Jesus, it just keeps going. Like eventually we're just going to get to like, you know, basic function math and logarithmic curves and things like that and transformers. Like eventually we'll get down there, but there's a lot of layers of the onion between my chat interface and that. And most people don't understand it. There's a few select people that do know how that all comes together. And yeah, those people, because having those people means that your agent is that much more effective than if you win the agent wars. Yeah, it's worth insane money. Like think about like the search wars. That's the thing it reminds me of like, you know, Ask Jeeves and Yahoo and Google.
Ask Jeeves.
Like think how much in retrospect, I don't think they knew at the time just how much money that was worth. Because if you won the search battle, you won the ad battle. If you win the ad battle, you're now Google. And so the stakes are extraordinary. And I think people, you know, are applying those lessons from that age going like, we have got to win this. It's an existential sort of conversation as a company. Like let me ask you this. Does Meta exist in 5 years if they're not in at the top of the AI game?
Yeah, I mean, probably.
That's a great question.
Yeah, probably not. I don't think any company exists in 5 to 10 years.
I might say something crazy, but I think Google's at risk if ChatGPT or one of these other AI tools become the top, you know, AI.
Yeah, Gemini is good, but it's not the best one.
But similar to, like you just mentioned, similar to the Ask Jeeves days, right? Because I remember using Ask Jeeves back in the day, and now I don't even, does it exist? I don't know. So similar to that, do you kind of foresee a lot of these, like what are now LLMs, just kind of phasing off and going away because the top two surface?
I mean, that's the trend in most business.
Or you get like an aggregator that
there's
aggregates
consolidation.
all these
Well,
LLMs.
I mean, think it through, right? The people that own those companies, they're all to some degree looking for exits and consolidation and market share. All those market forces work to consolidate. Now, the interesting problem is as you consolidate, you start to run into innovator's dilemma, which is the bigger and more successful you are, the more likely that you've ingrained behaviors and motivations that are not successful for whatever comes next. So Google, they're so huge, they've gotten so big and had so much success that they're going to have a harder time pivoting to whatever comes next than, let's say, you know, OpenAI or you know, the smaller groups, because they don't have legacy behaviors for legacy problems to overcome.
But is that not just like solved by just acquiring them outright and just letting them be their own entity, which has been like...
It's an interesting conversation because like Microsoft, that's what they're trying to do. Right. Right. Microsoft was, we could argue that they were somewhat in decline. versus the Googles and things. But now they've been heavily the biggest investors in OpenAI and things like that. So they're trying to acquire their way out, but they're also, if you notice, keeping their distance. They're not like buying
And they still have their
OpenAI.
co-pilot that they're trying to do something
They have
with.
their own separate stuff. And so they're trying to, it's an interesting play. We'll see if it works out for them. Because they are huge, but I think they recognize it. And so they're trying to do things to overcome that. Does Google figure that out? Who figures that out is a big, interesting question. But it's like the GEs and all the huge companies of the past, right? Like it's the same thing. That cycle of companies getting enormous and then something changing, whether it's electric vehicles or AI or whatever, or cell phones and all these different things, then the landscape changes. And some of those big companies will be able to pivot and some of them won't.
Just to wrap this conversation on AI, Greg, I want to, and team, I want to kind of talk through this World Economic Forum because I've been reading about this and I think it's pretty fascinating being in recruiting, kind of being in the space of, growth in general. The World Economic Forum has made headlines with a bold prediction. So they think by 2030, essentially, AI will result in a net gain of 78 million jobs. It's a super optimistic forecast, and it paints kind of like a bright future, right? So I want to know, Greg, a lot of people, when they think of AI, there's a lot of fear in terms of it replacing and taking a lot of jobs and us kind of being displaced, humans in general. Do you have a more optimistic view, or are you also pessimistic in what might happen? And how do you feel about like their bold prediction?
I would say I'm on the optimistic side. I mean, this is pretty optimistic, like heavily optimistic, I would say. And how fast things happen, I think we as humans tend to. It's funny when we talk about the past, we're always like, oh, that happened so fast. And then when we talk about the future, we say things are going to happen faster than they do every single time. Like we always assume things are going to happen faster than they do looking forward. Yet we always talk about in the past, things happen faster than we, for whatever reason. It's just like a part of our perceptions. So when it comes to AI, there's the macro and the micro level. At the micro level for individual people and individual jobs, like AI is going to take my job stuff. Yes, we've talked about it before, like the individual person can do more with AI, which means you need less people. However, there's another counteracting force, which is, let's use movies as an example. Like say we've got a $100 million budget to make a movie. And in the land before AI, you've seen $100 million movies before, they are what they are. In the future, let's say with AI, I can make that same movie with $50 million. Okay, cool. We've lost some jobs in that situation. The problem is, or the counteracting force is, if I think I can make $1 billion off of a $100 million investment, and part of it is I need to be competing with other movies, then I'm going to spend the $100 million and just the movie's going to be better because my people are all going to be using AI. And so instead of spending 50 to get a $100 million movie, I'm going to spend $100 million to get a $200 million quality movie. So the bar is going to get higher, meaning, if before I needed 10 people to do this, and now I only need 5 people to do the same thing, well, what's actually going to happen is I'm going to still have 10 people, or maybe I'll have 9 people, but the bar is now here. And so the quality of the outputs and deliverables and the amount of value that we're creating goes up. It's not like just a net reduction where we're saying, okay, yep, the jobs are gone because the AI is going to do it. It's like, well, okay, the AI is going to let us do more and better, and so the bar gets higher. And so that's something I think about when it comes to this sort of conversation. And then when we look at it at the biggest level, like the biggest, most macro level, AI is going to be really good at doing the non-value added stuff that we spend time on. So pushing forms around and doing really dull jobs that are kind of the same all the time. Automation, it's really going to be really good at that. And so in theory, the people that are left are creating more value, and just economically, there should be more value and less waste and less just whatever BS in these various economies around the world. And so I think it is going to be a net gain.
It's interesting because there are different perspectives on this, the AI doom versus AI boom, right? That's kind of how a lot of people will position it. And, you know, I'm not versed enough to, you know, have a bold prediction, but I do feel like it will grow the economy and it will grow opportunities. But you do have to be somebody who leans into AI, because a lot of people aren't, right? A lot of people are more afraid of it and they want to distance themselves because they feel like it's not something that maybe they're smart enough to understand how to use, right? So what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I do think that might be the more important conversation, because the risk that is inherent in AI is one of class division. And the folks that are educated and have access to AI, concentrating wealth even more than it's ever been before, and the people that are not being left behind even more than they ever were before. We're already on that track. Like, that's already a huge problem. Like, we start talking about house prices and land and those types of things, and corporations that, you know, own whatever percentage of Americans' homes at this point. It's kind of messed up. Like, I could see that getting worse because of AI. If AI is not democratized in the sense that everybody has equivalent access and ability to use to elevate themselves. If we leave anybody behind on, like, from the AI wave, like, those people are going to be in a lot of trouble for a long time, because they're just going to be totally left behind.
Totally.
That's an interesting point. Do you think AI should be regulated then?
That's the tough one. Yes and no. I think there needs to be industry groups where people have these conversations and there's some transparency about what's going on. Do I want to regulate it? Like, people should slow down and we should not take advantage of the amazing stuff that it can do for us? No, I don't really want to see that either. But this is that, see, now I'm being persona number 2. I'm going, I don't have the right answer. There's no, like, yes, we should slow down, or no, we should have no regulations, go faster. The answer is somewhere in the middle. It's like a nuanced answer. And so, yeah, I don't think I have that figured out, but I do think there needs to be conversations and there needs to be transparency. If people are doing stuff behind closed doors, like, that's where I think there's more risk.
So what does accessibility to AI look like? Is it as simple as just having a smartphone?
Could be, yeah. Well, so for example, there's
an
already
internet.
True.
but there's already differentiation. Like, you and I think we both pay for the advanced models, right? We spend the money to get the best, latest, and greatest, and other people don't have, you know.
Technically, that class division already exists in the form that, you know, with subscription, you're getting access to a better model than the free model.
That's true.
Right? So imagine if now ChatGPT, I think, is $20 a month. Imagine it's $200 a month, right?
Well, yeah,
like,
the more premium packages.
How many people could afford that? Like, think of it just as like a gym membership, right? You have your Equinox, you got your Lifetime, then you got your Planet Fitness.
But in that
I mean, it's like $5 a month, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, in that analogy, there are
But you
people
can
who
still get a
don't make me
workout.
read.
You can
Listen,
still get a workout.
here,
The
in-
bunk alarm?
in that analogy, like he's saying, there are people who are in great shape who don't even pay a membership fee to a gym because they work out in their own either home gym or they literally just run outside.
True.
Is there
But
that?
if you're thinking about gym just strictly from a perspective of working out, I agree with you. But I met Tommy at the gym, and indirectly I met, you know, you through Tommy. So to me, the gym was just more than a place to work out, right? That's where I met other individuals as well. And I've built a lot of relationships that have benefited me personally as a result of it, right? So it's not, if you're looking at it strictly from like, are there going to be weights? Yeah. So same thing. Is there going to be information? There's going to be information on the free model, right? How does that information like react with you? And what is the capability? Like, what are you capable of on the free model versus the paid model? I think that's the difference.
I don't think of it about, you know, Equinox versus 24-hour fitness. Think of it about, I've got a $1,000 fitness budget versus you've got a $100 fitness budget for the month. If I want to blow my budget on soft towels, I can. That may not be the best way of getting fit if that's the metric we're going for. But if I can spend it on a personal trainer, I can spend it on supplements, I can spend it on these types of things that will actually make a difference, I'm at a massive advantage. And then when it comes to the AI conversation, we are all in a privileged position to be sitting here having this conversation and be in tech jobs where we are exposed to this. I have friends that work in restaurants. They got no opportunity to talk about AI at work. they're working at Texas Roadhouse. And I talk to them and they're like, so what's the latest with this AI stuff?
So what is your simple kind of advice? Not simple, but what is something that could potentially cut through to that type of service worker or just like the everyday person?
I mean, they've got to use it in their own development. Like, so if they're thinking about, going to school or learning a skill, like make AI part of that and try to stay up on top of it as best you can.
Are the free versions at least enough to help with that pursuit?
I think so. Like, I don't think the delta between the expensive and the free is not so great right now that it's like but it's a trend, to Sujan's point. Like, it's going that direction. And then the thing we were talking about earlier, which I think actually becomes a more important point, is how present is AI in your life, right? Meaning, the more access to AI and the more you use it, the bigger the advantage you have. And the way to get more access to AI is going to be gadgets and devices and glasses and these things that cost more and more money. And so the people that have money to buy the AI glasses from Meta or whatever, and then they have it all the time, have this ever-present advantage because they have the funding to do that. And so this idea, like the true power of AI, we haven't really seen yet because we're still dealing with old school interfaces. We're talking to it. We've got chat. It's not totally ubiquitous yet. Like, I think AI is going to get to the level where it's in your glasses. It's seeing everything you're seeing. It's talking to you in your mic. I mean, Elon's going to put a chip in your brain that lets you talk to Grok. Like, you're going to have a Grok chip in your brain. Like, that's coming.
Aaron's going to be the first one.
Yeah.
You'd get that.
I'm literally have no more friends, and it's just gonna be me, myself, and I, and Grok.
You're gonna be in bed with Grok.
It's gonna be whispering to you from your brain.
I'm gonna be like, "You're so funny." No, you're funny. No, you're funny. Just to myself all day.
I was really surprised. I have a friend that lives in Turkey, and Turkey's minimum wage is like $400 a month. The lira doesn't go as far as the dollar, but their community and their circle, everyone over there is using ChatGPT. Maybe not the paid version, probably the free version, but still, I was like shocked that they were telling me that they use this daily. So it has a lot of reach, like worldwide reach, that I'm surprised to hear about.
And I hope that continues, and that we do, have pretty ubiquitous and even access. But I mean, realistically, like when we start getting the stuff I'm talking about, like where we're talking about putting chips in brains and stuff, and the people that have the chip end up having these advantages, those things are going to get, stradiated by economic factors.
I do think
but even if we get the chip, we're still not going to compete with the robot ChatGPT, right? Like the robotic version.
I don't know, man. The robot, that's an interesting one.
Well, Grok did. I mean, Elon said that he was going to integrate Grok with that like robot thing that he has.
100%. But so this gets back to the other thing we're talking about, right? So computer vision is one of those things that's incredibly complicated, and we all completely underestimate the complexity of, like, I'm just thinking about moving my hands and my fingers in this space, and all of the thing that just happened for me to do this little hand motion without hitting the mic, with doing it in a way that makes sense with my conversation, doing it so the fingers all move, and all these things that are just happen without me even thinking about any of the layers of that. And I have no way of describing how any of that works or why I know how to do it. And we're expecting a robot to be able to do that and learn that. And so computer vision has been this outstanding challenge. It's the reason why self-driving cars have been such a hard problem. Never mind, Eli's trying to do it the hard way with actual video. He's like, well, humans got two eyes. I should just have two cameras and it should work, right? And he's not wrong. Yeah, there is clearly a way to make that work, but it's just incredibly hard.
It's the processing, right? That's the most difficult
It's the
part.
processing, and then you got people going with the LiDAR versions, which is different types of data, different modalities.
Waymo, I believe, uses LiDAR.
But then it's interesting because then you look at Waymo and it's got all these spinning, crazy, bulbous, weird-looking things on it, and it's like, that can't be cheap. And is that how we have to do this? But that challenge, the challenge of computer vision, I think, has been consistently underestimated throughout, however many decades, right? We thought we would have this solved a long time ago. Elon bet Tesla's direction on that. That challenge, which is going to continue to be hard, combined with the robotics challenge of how do I get an actual physical machine that has the fidelity to do all these motions, and then can combine that with the computer vision, combining that with the actual AI stuff. I mean, that's what you need to do to get to this ability to replace a human worker in a factory or a welder. Like, that I think that is very far away.
Is it crazy to think that AI is completely going to like eliminate all the boundaries we have in the world? Like, today we have this like concept like countries and borders and resources in one place, right? Like with AI, that kind of all gets evened out, right? Like you always thought like America, you had better resources, you had better infrastructure. Now everybody's got the resource to go create that, with AI. Is it crazy to think that, hey man, like if I want to hire somebody, like why am I looking in Texas? Like I could go look in Africa, Asia, Europe, right? Like they've got all the same resources. Mm-hmm. Like could that be like the future, that AI gets us to, back to Pangea, where we're...
I don't know. I mean, that gets into can we actually ever achieve like the United Federation of Planets from Star Trek? Like where it's like Earth is under one government.
And Bitcoin's the currency.
Yeah, Bitcoin's like, can we get there before we blow ourselves up? I don't know, man. I hope so. I mean, on the same time, I'm kind of with Elon, like, hey, get me over to Mars as my backup plan because I don't trust all these other MFers that I live with on this planet. Yeah. There's too many people with too many different motivations, and power, corrupts. It just does.
But if there's like a winner, right? Like if there's a winner in this AI race.
But what does it take to get a winner? What does that mean? Does it mean you conquered everybody?
What does that mean? I think to us, it just means that kind of like how Google was the search engine for us, right? And like how everything, like the word Google was synonymous with searching for something, looking up information, right? Could there be a company like, ChatGPT was the first one. So there is some level of like ChatGPT is synonymous with AI, right? When people say like, go find in ChatGPT, they don't necessarily mean ChatGPT, they just mean you use AI. So could we ever get to a point where, there is a company that's like a go-to, or there's an aggregator in some capacity with all these LLMs, and if they're controlling the flow, or if that's where people are going to for access to information, they control like you said, the ad, they control what information is then given to them. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of power.
Yeah, and that gets into that whole governance conversation. Like if let's say that's one of the chats wins, I don't think it'll be Chat GPT because 4 syllables is just too many. We need somebody with a shorter name. Yeah. If let's say they won, right, and they become the 80% of the market is all Chat GPT, then they have this. And then they go into the revenue model, like where now a lot of it's all speculation, the valuations and things like that. Now they're just saying, okay, now we're just farming revenue. Well, now those motivations to make the best thing and win, it suddenly becomes, okay, how do I make the most money? Yeah. And to make the most money, I might tweak the information or go with the ad. I suddenly get this conflict of interest.
That, right? Like who's regulating that?
Like
then, like there's now we've got AI that's creating videos, like realistic videos that. You can't. The only way you would be able to decipher is because the worst part of like the sides coming out with all like the stereotypes and all that.
There's a lot of those.
I have a crazy idea.
They're hilarious. They're like so funny.
Well, actually, I wanted to bring up. Well, I'll let you go first.
Well, there's 2 ideas I want to get out there because I think these are interesting. Is what you were just talking about. Is like today people pay for impressions, right? What if you pay for weights? Meaning, what if I, as a brand, I can pay one of these providers to weight my brand or my product a little more heavily to bias the LLM towards it. Like, can I pay for that service? Sure. Like that's a scary thought. I'm sure it's going to happen, and we're probably going to have to figure out how to make it transparent and regulate and those sorts of things. The other thing that you can do, which is really interesting with the video conversation, is what if, because we know that AI can generate video very quickly and it's only going to get better. What if in your favorite movie, I could even go back to past movies and I can replace all the product placement with current brands. So let's go, like, we'll take Back to the Future. Ooh. And I forget if that was like Pepsi or Coke or whatever.
Like a Titanic, and you gotta...
Right. What if I could get AI to, based on who is watching and your preferences, replace all the product placement with new stuff?
That's wild.
Right. So like even like the cars or whatever, like let's say suddenly Back to the Future, maybe I forget which way it was, if it was all Coke or Pepsi or whatever. It's switched, or it's something else, or it's like whenever one of those.
It's the local coffee shop.
What's that water called?
Prime.
The new one? The fancy water that everybody drinks, the bubble water.
The Mountain Valley Springs, or the,
Saratoga.
Topo Chico, Saratoga.
Topo Chico, yeah. What if suddenly, in Back to the Future, there's Topo Chico, everybody's drinking Topo Chico.
Yeah.
Like you could totally do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
you could do like a geolocation wise, in like a local coffee shop can have their coffee.
I mean, have you heard of like
You could be
Tung Tung
watching it
Sahur?
and I'm watching it and it's different.
Well, I want to actually play something because this kind of I thought this happened
That's
recently.
like the original AI universe. Have you heard of the Italian Tung 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 Sahur universe? Oh man,
I'm curious.
it
about
gets
this.
wild.
What is this? Tell me more about this.
This is old, Sujan. We can't even talk about it anymore. This is so old.
But if we can go back, we got to talk about books like Accelerando and all like the legacy cyberpunk stuff and authors like Neil Stephenson that were imagining these things. Like, okay, so there's a relatively new book called The Coming Wave by Mustafa Suleyman, one of the guys behind DeepMind. And this was written like 2 years ago, and he's talking about the intersection of AI with
The
3D
Microsoft
printing
guy.
and all. Yes, I think he was. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Okay, got it.
But he's talking about these intersection of these things, and it's this it is the power that's going to come with combining AI with 3D printing and the spread of this knowledge and bad actors and all this stuff. Very interesting stuff. Neil Stephenson, author, he was like an MIT dropout, written a ton of really cool sci-fi books. Wrote a book called The Diamond Age, I think back in the late 90s, early 2000s, that specifically dealt with that. It's like, hey, what is society like when 3D printing is ubiquitous and AI is ubiquitous? And one of his constructs, for example, was every child, you didn't go to school, you were just given a book. And this book was connected to AI and had the ability to 3D print things. And that was your entire education was contained in this book. And your home had a 3D printer for anything you wanted, and everything was based on licenses and ideas and the economy. Like all these things are covered way back. So it's really interesting to go back and look at some of that stuff through this lens. And it's also interesting as someone who's been interested in these topics for a very long time, like a lot of people are coming to it going like, oh, this is crazy and new. And it's like, there's a lot of really smart people that have been thinking about this kind of stuff for a long time.
For sure. That sci-fi stuff freaks me out because a lot of it ends up coming true. I think during COVID time when we were watching V for Vendetta, remember that? Mm-hmm. I mean, it was insane. I think it was the year 2020 in V for Vendetta when they made it however many years ago that there was going to be a virus and everyone's going to get locked up and there's going to be a curfew and you can't do this, and you can't do that. Obviously that's an outlier because they got the date right and all that kind of stuff could have been coincidence, but just the making a sci-fi movie and then seeing it come true is insane.
Go watch Tron again.
Yeah.
Other than that. Like, and I'm gonna try to blow your minds briefly here. So a lot of the AI and cyberpunk and sci-fi stuff that goes into the future comes up with this concept of, hey, once the AI is good enough, you can create copies of yourself and create copies of yourself that are going to go do stuff for you, right? And so I can create a copy of me and I say, hey, go research stocks, or I create a copy of me, go learn about this. What are we doing today with the AI chatbots? You guys have probably all done this, which you say, hey, create this email in the style of my writing. Copy me. Do this thing as if you were me. Mm-hmm. So suddenly, how many steps are we away from this idea that we can have the AI create these replicants of ourselves? So like we're going down that path. It's really interesting.
I actually, to speak on that, just did this recently with Grok because of the new release and its integration with Twitter, with X, right? I asked it to go read all my old tweets and draft a new tweet as me. And on top of that, make it a little better and more consistent so I can raise my following, right? And it started drafting a tweet, and the first tweet that I drafted, it goes, yeah, Cooper Flag is good and all, but Dumont is still ugly as fuck. I was like, that's me.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
I was using it last night, and it kind of scared me because I had earlier this week,
catching strays from AI.
Earlier this week, I had talked about it with this idea related to the protocol between like a fancy front end and this agentic AI and how we would do that. And like I had this concept, but I hadn't really seen any before, but I talked with AI about it and then I kind of forgot about it. And then last night I was working on a data dictionary, like all variables so it give it context so it knew it was. And I said, hey, can you give me quick definitions for this data dictionary just so for context? And without me asking it, it did that. And it's like, oh, and here's the groups and this other concept that we talked about 2 days ago. I did that. I just in there. And I was like, oh crap, it's smarter than I am.
Yeah.
You know, it remembered the thing that I had talked about and like just did it. And I was like, oh crap. Like now on the one hand, I'm like, this is awesome, is now I have this thing that's like better than anything I've seen. It's like this new idea. It's really cool. But now I'm scared because I might have forgotten about it if the AI hadn't like done that for me and reminded me and like did the thing. I was like, this is
Well, a little bit on like the scarier side of this AI generated videos. The other day, this was trending. A Malaysian couple got tricked by an AI video, and I want to play this video for you guys so you can see. Make sure the volume is there. Oh, it's not showing. It's not actually giving the volume behind it. Let me see if I could pull it up. But we're short on time, so I don't want to go into watching it. But essentially, the video. This is the video, so you're not going to be able to hear the audio. And it's touring a part of Malaysia that's all fake. This is not. None of this is real, right? It's showing like this really cool part, and it got posted on Daily Mail and had hundreds of thousands of views, and an old couple saw it. An elderly couple saw it, and they ended up driving 3 hours to the location it said it was just to go to a city that didn't exist. So it tricked old people. Like, I guess like my question here for you, Greg, is like, is there an immediate like protection that you have to have around older people, maybe in your family life or people around you, to not get scammed or get bamboozled because of how advanced some of this AI stuff is getting? Do you have any like feelings or opinions there?
the immediate thing that comes to mind harkens back to that last conversation, which is the ability to have ubiquitous AI. So you can almost have an AI on your shoulder looking at what you're looking at to tell you that that's generated. So
a soldier.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, so if you're wearing the glasses and you've got grok on your head, on your face, and you're looking at a video, it might be able to tell you, hey, that's fake, right? Versus you might not recognize it, right? So it comes down to that access conversation, that whole thing.
That's going to be crazy.
But then, how did my parents, thinking about my parents? Yeah, I don't know. My dad gave up programming the VCR decades ago. Like he's just, I don't know.
He's not consuming content, is he? Like he's not.
Oh, he's retired and he listens to all the hard left wing. He's like a hard left wing guy.
Got it.
And so he consumes all of the stuff and is generally outraged about everything on the right. And you have to, it's like you got to try to get him back to the middle and be like, okay, there's two sides. Not everybody on the right is evil. Like
he's not seeing those AI generated videos of a little Indian boy saying, like, trying to scam someone, and then the dad walking in is like, "Oh, I'm proud of you. Your very first scam." Have you seen that one?
This house comes with a shower. Can we remove it?
Actually, to be honest, probably the only solution is to have conversations. Like, it's a good reason to be talking to your parents or your grandparents. Like, make sure you're talking.
But old people have been like getting tricked for a long time.
I know, but
Even
now
before
it's
AI.
like, bro.
Fox News.
Well, that's true. Last thing, just to kind of wrap this up with something different. I know that we talked about some gaming stuff with Greg, and we're all gamers here. We all like different kinds of games. I'm more of a kind of sports gamer. We'll really play FIFA, Madden. That's pretty much
Why
it.
sports?
It's because I used to play college basketball. But so I've heard of Star Citizen, right?
I mean, we grew up playing sports games, but we also, when Halo was a thing, we were playing nonstop.
Well, that's
Halo.
true. Like some gun games too.
As we did.
Yeah.
But now, in terms of like what I'm aware of, is I'm not like gaming heavy at all. But if I do, it is just FIFA or something with the group of friends. But I read a lot, I watch a lot of streamers maybe sometimes, and they'll play their games. But I've heard of Star Citizen, but honestly, like I don't really know anything about it. Right? It's a massive space game, but it's been in the works forever, I guess.
One of the biggest Kickstarters in history.
One of the biggest Kickstarters. Can you tell me more about it? Yeah, just tell me more about it.
Okay, so yeah, and then we can kind of relate it back to AI. Because this is right, the sports game thing is interesting because it's funny, like now we have this different idea of AI, but when you were playing FIFA and all the other players are running around the field, that's AI.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a different form of AI, but that's AI, right? And so, Ronaldo or everybody was running around. There's a little AI version of
That's
Ronaldo
true.
doing its thing. But anyways, so the Star Citizen, that Star Citizen is like, I would say like it's ambitious in that it's trying to be like the next generation of game. Like they're trying to create a universe in which people like, it's almost like a Second Life type thing. The guy doing it, his name is, Chris Roberts. I just blanked out. Chris Roberts. So Chris Roberts is an interesting character. He produced some video games back in the 90s that were very well loved and actually had Mark Hamill and some other stars in them in some of the parts. And so he is very well regarded by a core group of nerds. There he is on the screen here. That loved those games. And he made a couple very narrative-driven games that were almost like movies that had Mark Hamill and stuff in them. I want to say there's some other really big names in these things. And then he actually made live-action movies. Wing Commander. You guys ever seen that crazy sci-fi movie with like the lions? The aliens are lions and there's space battles and Mark Hamill.
No.
Yeah, that was him. And then he also did stuff like, I want to say like Lucky Number 11 was, he was
I've seen
the
that.
producer for and stuff. And so he's done like more things. And then he came back in like 2012 and said, hey, I want to redo those games that I made using all the latest and greatest stuff and like try to achieve this vision that I wasn't able to achieve way back then. And so since then, like they blew their Kickstarter goals out of the water almost immediately. And like I said, I think they're probably closing in on 850 million at this point. Wow. But it's also
That's a lot of money.
it's also 12, 13 years later, and it's not done. And they started a side project called Squadron 42, which is, it's funny when you look back, it's like, we should have all seen this coming because it's the same thing he did. Like he made the narrative version, like the movie version of this game. And then he had also like an open world version of this game. And he's doing the same thing. It's like, it's the psychology, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to do the same pattern that was successful for me in the past. I'm very likely to do that same thing. And then here we are. That's what he's doing.
So is this going to be the next Halo?
Maybe. So Squadron 42, which is the narrative version, which has like a crazy cast of characters: Mark Hamill, Gillian Anderson, Gary Oldman, Mark Strong. What's his name?
Superman, right? Henry Cavill.
Yep, Cavill. John Rhys Davies, who's been in like tons of sci-fi. Like there's a crazy ass list of stars in this.
Gary Oldman's the commissioner, man.
For sure.
Love Gary
And
Oldman.
and it's a narrative. It's going to be like a Halo, where you kind of go through all the missions and all the things, and it's like the tech is absolutely insane. And then in parallel, they're developing like this open world version of it, where you got to go and live in this space universe. It's really interesting because
And the plan is for that to be out in 2026.
42 is supposed to launch in 26, but you know how these things go.
Yeah.
Like the other big,
So-
the really big one right now is I can't think of it. The car one, Grand Theft Auto. Like there's a
Yeah,
new one.
2026 might be the year of like the
Dude,
games, bro.
GTA 6?
GTA 6 with this game. It might like.
Did you guys see the video where they're pointing out like there's a character in GTA 6 and he moves his arm and you can actually see like the bicep muscle moving?
I've seen the
They
twerking
modeled,
one.
like,
No way.
I've seen the girl twerking.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I saw that.
And she was-
yeah.
And she was thick. And in the game, that like there's like a black guy on Twitter that was like breaking down the like the fat on the butt jiggling and like how accurate it was. It's hilarious.
I saw
Like,
comments that were like, "Send me her ad. Send me her
Yeah.
ad." I'm trying to figure out who's the real person. That's so funny.
no, games are changing.
What is it? It's more than $1
completely.
billion invested in GTA 6.
Yeah. And yeah, Star Citizen will be the same. Like that's I mean the level that things are getting to is crazy. I mean, if you think about it,
like some countries' economy, man, that's insane.
Dude, that's crazy.
and they've been working on these things for 10 years plus, which means they haven't been using AI and all the latest and greatest stuff this whole time.
Yeah.
So
So
now they are.
I mean, are they? Is it how fast can they integrate that stuff into these old things?
I mean, slowly it bleeds in, I feel like, over time, and it should only improve
How
the
much
process.
how much of the delay is because technology's been improving so fast that right before they're about to launch or something, they're like, oh wow, like we need to update like the tech and all this sort of equipment to be on the front end of
That's
this
a great
game.
question. I mean, so what I think a lot of people don't appreciate about gaming and software development in general is once you get projects of a certain size, you have to start building what's called tooling. So you start to build tools that help you to do certain tasks faster. Like, let me give you an example. Like, let's say we're setting up a level, like, or a location, and we've got to place buildings and objects and all this kind of stuff. Well, one way to do that would be to like manually put every single piece in, and that would be like an indie developer might do it like that. But if you have to do that 1,000 times, you're going to create a tool that will like automatically, based on a template or some other algorithms, like put all the stuff down for you, so you can make that location in 30 minutes versus 20 hours or whatever. And so tooling like that will exist all across this development space, and the tooling is usually generally built by programmers. And it's funny, in game development or projects in general, there's only so many actual programmers. It's like some percentage of the team is programmers, and it's not as high as I think most people think. And those tools are integrated into this giant landscape and data and all these different things. And so if you want to use the latest tech, it's a matter of now you have to go into your tools and like create this new tool. And if the tool if the tool got me from 20 hours down to 1 hour, that's great. 19 hours saved. I can calculate ROI. If the tool gets me from 1 hour down to 30 minutes because I did AI, now I got to do an ROI calculation and say, okay, is that net benefit worth redoing this tooling with the latest and greatest tech? And the answer may be no, or maybe unclear. And so all of it comes down to business conversations and money and all that kind of stuff. So the latest, it's hard to get the latest. The bigger the project is, it's the same thing we were talking about with organizations. The bigger the organization is, the harder it is to pivot a new direction, get new capabilities because of old patterns. The bigger a software development project is, the harder it is to pivot because you've invested in all this tooling, you've got all this different stuff. So yeah, I would say these huge projects probably are not using the latest and greatest. And they won't, because the cost of the switch won't be worth it. And what do we know about these games is they're generally going to be predicting their launch to be sooner than it actually is. And so the math they're going to do on the benefit is based on that optimistic projection of when they're actually going to be finishing versus the realistic how many years it's actually going to take. And so they'll actually be biased wrongly against adding new tech.
Which is even worse.
Right, because their math is going to be wrong from some of those other biases.
But they're still obligated to like hype it up.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. Like if we talk about Witcher 4, which they've got a partnership with Unreal, and they're using the very latest and greatest Unreal Engine like stuff. Like,
Yeah, that's
smart.
sick.
Like I was like, that's smart. If you're big enough where you can get the actual engine developers themselves to help you use their tool and build your game, like that's good.
That's the shit that the Unreal Engine stuff is insane.
It is, yeah. If you guys watch the new Witcher 4 demo, it's pretty sick.
Am I right in thinking the Assassin's Creed games also use the Unreal Engine? I know it's Ubisoft, but
could be. I don't know off the top of my head. I know like SC, for example, is kind of on their own engine, which is interesting. There's a whole lot of tech.
So it's like more work to go create that first, then you can
Correct. It's like
it.
so they, Star Citizen had to build their own because they're trying to do some things that were not really been done before. So think about it this way: you've got like there's a solar system, and you want to have 1,000 or 2,000 players in this solar system. So you're going to have to spread those players across multiple servers and multiple sets of hardware, which means then you need to have all this hardware share the play space and be able, and for people to transition from one server to the next without really noticing anything's going on. Now in a solar system, it gets really weird because if you've got rotating bodies, planets that are rotating, that means that, okay, so if you're the server that's handling this planet, your space is spinning like this. Now I'm the server that's handling like the space around that planet. And when someone shifts from my space to your space, the rotations of the 3D space itself are going to be different. And so now you got to have a whole system of handoffs between servers that takes into account like rotations of planets and all these system like physics and all this crazy stuff. And it's like, okay, well, that doesn't exist. we're gonna have to build that.
That's crazy. Well, guys, I mean, this was fun. Greg, we definitely have to have you on again. Continue the conversation. Is there anything else that you guys want to touch on before we close out?
No. Enjoyed the conversation. This was fun.
Dude, AI is scary, man.
Did they just show like the muscles underneath
on the horse? Yeah, I was looking at that too.
This reminds me of Assassin's Creed. I remember Assassin's Creed was one of the first games where I was like,
game,
whoa, this looks too real.
They evolve so quickly too, like that game. the series of Assassin's Creed games.
I was
I think
just
it was Assassin's Creed, and then the next one that I was really like blown away by was that one zombie one. Was it Last of Us?
Last of
Yeah,
Us.
that one was
well
also
for me it was Red Dead Redemption. Once Red Dead Redemption came out, the second one especially.
You know what's sad? The Maddens and FIFAs look like they look like in 1990.
Oh,
They haven't even.
it was something
tried.
else that I
Yeah,
wanted
let's
to.
talk about the physics are different. The
No,
physics.
it was these games. Like I wanted to talk a little bit about how the culture has shifted, where it's now become so heavily about the in-app purchases. So it's like these,
Microservices.
these games are just milking kids to spend money to
Yeah.
have a better version of their character or player or whatever, and it's just crazy.
Have you seen? So the EU is looking at laws around that.
Yes.
There's a bunch of new stuff specifically targeted to protect kids from predatory, monetization models in gaming.
Good.
It's gotten to that level.
Because the games are the same now, especially the sports games. They're not, like he's saying, they're not getting better. It used to be like we would crack it open and it was all about playing with each other and like some of
You
like
had everything. Like, you didn't need anything.
yeah, the story mode, but then the online, environment of competing online opened up, and then this like ultimate team kind of package deals are like where it's at now, where it's like, oh, I want to play with like Michael Jordan 93 version, but in order to have that, I have to buy that character to play with that character
No,
or
you
whatever.
can't even
And it's
buy
like
it. Now it's like
it's like
packs,
it's like
right?
gambling. It's like a gift
lottery
card. Yeah, it's a lottery
packs.
pack.
Yeah, I mean there are like horror stories of. There was like one story I read where this kid had spent like $38,000 on NBA 2K store, just trying to like open up this
get
pack
some
and trying to get a
random
player.
thing. Yeah,
it's insane.
It's interesting. So I'm primarily a PC gamer, which I think is always still like a little ahead of where console games are.
Yeah.
And in PC gaming, there's been a big like counter push against like those types of models. And so the best games, like the highest rated and most successful games, have been things like a studio called Larian did one, and it's just you just pay your $60 and you're done. Dune, like the recent Dune Awakening game, is similar to that. You, like there's like 3 levels. You can buy like the $60, $80, or $100 version, but after that, there's done. There's no extra whatever. Because I think the market got sick and tired of that. Like I don't want to play a game which is constantly asking me to spend more money. Like that is not. A lot of the gamers are probably old enough to remember back in the good old days where you paid your money and you got your game and that was it.
And
then sometimes you got free stuff after,
It's
like
not just
free
asking;
expansions.
you're almost forced to. Like a game like Call of Duty, right? That's like what I played a lot of growing up. I mean, we would, like you said, would buy the game, and either you had access to the Xbox Live or PlayStation Network, and that's it, right? Like you would just play against people. Then they started putting out, these weapons that you could buy, but these weapons were better.
Yeah,
So now,
pay
in
to
order
win.
to compete against these better weapons, you got to now invest money to buy this better weapon, right?
I used to get so excited by the challenge of like beating certain levels to unlock certain characters, right? Where it's like, oh, if you want this guy, you have to
Right.
like be like elite at the game.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh hell yeah, now I'm putting the hours in, and I was playing the game forever just to unlock X character.
Well, that was the Smash Bro model, right?
It's
Where it was
Smash
like,
Bros,
hey,
but like there's like NBA Street games where it's like if you want to play with classic Dr. J, like you have to beat him in this one-on-one game. It's like that model used to get me so excited, and it was like
tough, so you have to.
it
like,
was hard, and
grind,
you lost 99 times before you finally won.
Yeah.
Now it's like to get that you have to pay $9.99.
Right, you're talking about progression, right? So most gamers are one of the big things they're looking for is progression. You want to let you're progressing your character, your account, you're getting more things, your skills, and like that's rewarding. That's like serotonin and all the chemicals that we get. We learn new things. When you shortcut that by like swiping their credit card, it shortcuts that reward cycle, and it takes progression, what could be progression in the game, away. And so I think people they'll give those games a chance and they'll swipe the card. But what I think is happening is at the end of that experience, when you've played through that game and you've swiped the card so many times, you start to go like, ooh, swiping the card, like to me, wasn't that valuable. Like it's not as valuable to me as the stuff I actually earned myself. And so then the next version of that game, when they bring it back to me, I go, okay, well, is this going to be experience again where I'm going to be swiping my card and at the end I'm going to feel kind of like whatever about it? Like I'm not as interested in that because of the sour taste of the last one in the long run. Like when you think back to a pay-to-win game or that has all that kind of credit card swiping, you don't look back on it as fondly. You look back on it going, man, I spent a lot of money, and that was, what do I got to show for it? And so when the next one comes and they're like, hey, here's the new one. Guess what? You have the opportunity to swipe your card a bunch of times again. We all go like, oh, we've been down that road. It seems fun at first, but then like in the long run, it's not great. Yeah. And so I think you're seeing a return. There's a push away from that
for sure,
because the market is more educated. And
except games like maybe, I don't know, Fortnite. I feel like people are spending money, like crazy amounts of money, and happily they're like happily to doing it. Like
yeah, I mean, there's always gonna be some, right? But there's some hope, and I think. Like some of the regulation around like, hey, don't prey on kids with loot boxes. Like selling loot boxes to kids is like selling drugs to kids. We just shouldn't be doing that.
It's crazy. Well, also some streamers are incentivized by that investment because they'll get the return on their investment because people will watch them. And so then they get the money on the back end of that initial purchase. So
or it's not even their money. Like they just
really,
get these like free credits in the game.
Yeah. Well, like, often a game developer will give it to a specific streamer and let them.
Like FIFA streamers.
I mean, what's crazy is that there's a couple kids that are on the Forbes list 30 under 30 that are just Fortnite streamers.
That's crazy.
And they're in the 30 under 30. Isn't that insane? Like, just playing one game, just streaming online. So I saw that the other day. I was like, this is insane.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know who Asmongold is? The World of Warcraft guy. Like he's one of the original like prototype streamers that just has insane net worths because of it's really interesting. I mean, that I'm old enough that Twitch to me didn't make a lot of sense when it first came out. Like, why would I watch other people play games when I can just play games myself? But then I'm a convert now, so I do watch Twitch and I get it, and I think that is interesting to see how that evolves. Like, okay, here's an interesting one. Let's play this out for a second. So let's take that idea, like you have these crazy games, right, that are building these insane universes with these insane graphics, and then you've got AI, so you can populate these worlds with like characters that seem real and like do that very quickly. Then you're going to have streamers in these worlds doing things, and you're going to basically be able to be like, you can watch your favorite streamer go on this journey in this world, and like in theory, if they were really doing it well, you could be in the world with them and just like be a character in their party that's invisible, following them around, like while they do their thing. Like there's like what happens when you
like
merge
like
Twitch?
You're virtually in the game.
Yeah. So what if the next game?
Chat, you're like part of him going through.
You're
this journey.
standing on the sideline watching Aiden Ross
You're
play 2K against
Send
LeBron.
Me 100 subs, please.
But yeah, you're watching. But instead of just watching his screen, you're on the court and you can kind of like move around and sit in different seats or just be above him. And if they start,
this is gonna happen. Like this is gonna happen. I think like next decade.
Yeah, I mean,
especially with like how much money is in streaming. Didn't Speed get like a $400 million deal or something like that?
Yes,
deal or something
I mean
like
they're
and he's not even top 3.
They're becoming.
Aiden's the biggest one.
I think
he's
Aiden's
but
number 2.
Speed's not a gaming streamer.
Who's
Trainwreck is making I think 10 million a month.
Wow.
From streaming, which is just like, come on, how the numbers are crazy.
We gotta start streaming, man. What are we doing here?
Yeah, well, maybe with Greg and playing Star Citizen.
It starts with the first stream tomorrow on Monday.
Let's go.
Yeah. So
every time he dies, we get to slap him in real life.
So my friends and I, we do a thing like push-up challenge.
Nice.
Like, we were playing. There's a game called Gray Zone.
Okay.
That one, it's like a squad shooter thing, and if we die, we're like, all right, we gotta do push-ups.
Ah, that's cool. I like that.
So what's going on tomorrow? The event tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Event.
We could close with
Thanks for the plug. Yeah. So
I mean, this won't be up.
But it's people could, if it's going to be posted, people could still go
and watch it
after the fact.
So we're hosting a conversation about AI here, actually in the room next door, and specifically, it's that whole intersection of AI and people again, right? And the theme is people as the pacing element for AI. Like AI. No matter how much we talk about like AI is going to replace all the jobs, like when it comes to real organizations, AI can't go faster than the people are going, because at the end of the road, any tool, there's a person making decisions about how to use it or not use it. And so a big part of AI adoption is understanding what the people within an organization can handle, how fast they should be going, how do you enable them to go faster or enable them to go slower if they need to be going slower, and how those two things intersect. So it's gonna be a really good, interesting conversation. We've got some amazing speakers, a speaker panel, some names from industry. It's going to be really interesting.
And where could people find this video?
You can find it on our website, so method360.com. You can also find it on our LinkedIn, Method360 on LinkedIn. It's under our events.
Cool.
It's going to be fun.
You're going to see Aaron moderating that panel. So
Yeah.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun. And we'll post clips and highlights coming out of it too, depending on, how it goes. And part of me is like, damn, we should have had Greg come on a long time ago so we can use your videos as promotional videos. I think that would have been hype. But
I love talking about this. At some point, we got to talk about like entropy, the heat death of the universe, and whether time goes forwards or backwards. And
For
is it a loop?
Parallel,
next episode.
parallel universe. I'm all about it. On that note, thank you guys for watching. Greg, thank you for coming on the pod.
My pleasure.